here is another reason that having your square footage incorrectly can be such a big deal. So it affects your taxes. Like, you are paying taxes on a property based off of the actual home or building that is on the property. Paying taxes on just land versus something that has an improvement on it, they're vastly different. If you ever buy a new construction, you will know this. A lot of times they don't factor your taxes originally, based off of there actually being a home on it, unless it's been there for a little bit of time. But if it's really new construction, then a lot of times you will see that your tax bill changes because originally they were taxing you based off of just the land, not with the improvement. So we will get into that on another episode. However, for purposes of this, it affects your taxes, and you know that can be a big chunk of money a lot of times. But the real big caveat to this is that it's kind of on the builder to make sure that it's right. Because we as realtors are going into the MLSs and we are utilizing the information there that is required of us to input. So, like when a house sells, new construction or not, we are required to go in and input the day that it sold, as well as how much it sold for, and if there were any seller concessions. Because the way this affects things is it affects really the price per square foot. So that's the most true number that you can come by. We use that because at the end of the day, if the house is very similar to another but the square footage is vastly different, then that makes a big difference monetarily. So if we're going in and we're looking at these numbers and we see that this house sold 3 months ago, because we also have to highly rely on dates. Like if you talk to an appraiser, they're looking for dates, they're looking for similarities, they're looking for, square footage similarities, those types of things. We look at those dates and we say, okay, this sold 3 months ago or within 6 months ago. So A, that's a good option. B, where are we at on square footage? Okay, well, their square footage is vastly different than ours. So is it really a comparable? And before you even get into the nitty gritty of things, just narrowing those couple of things down sometimes can knock a property out. And if the square footage is not correct, like say they did go in and they had a house plan, it was listed at, we'll do easy numbers, 1,800 square foot. And they went in, they changed some things, and they took 50 square foot out. So now it's only 1,750. It is going, if they don't go back in when they go to update where the house is sold, if they don't go back in and also change that square footage is not what it was originally listed at 1,800, then when that house closes and that information is inputted at the very bottom of the MLS, it says, what did it sell for? Price per square foot. What was it listed at price per square foot? And then what did it sell for? Price per square foot. If it's not right, it skews those numbers significantly. And it may seem like not that big of a deal to some people. However, if you're like me and you're going in and you're looking for these numbers, like specifically this number, and it's completely skewed because of the fact that the square footage wasn't right, so the calculations are incorrect, it is a whole trickle down effect. Because what happens when that happens over and over and over and over again? We are going off of what the market says your house should be worth, because that's what an appraiser is going to do. And those base numbers come from base information. So if the base information is wrong, then any calculation we make after that is also wrong. So if this happens over and over and over again, then it completely screws up the housing price per square foot, because everyone else is also basing it off of that. So if you build a new construction, you're off by 50 square foot. We're selling a house that is not new construction, and we need those numbers to be able to figure out where we're at, because it technically should be a comparable. All of our numbers are off. Every bit of the calculations are off. And so it's not required that I'm aware of for them to go back in and fix it. I mean, they're probably supposed to. But I don't know that it's watched enough to be to where maybe they get fined or something if they don't, because a lot of times they don't go back in and make these changes. And when they don't, it miscues the numbers. When it miscues the numbers, we price houses differently. And like I said, if you do this over and over and over again, it could either have prices way up here that shouldn't be, or way down here that shouldn't be. I mean, it creates a huge difference, and over time, that gap just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger as to what it actually should be. So we use these price per square foot, what it sold at, to calculate what we are seeing that the market is showing your house should go for, and we want to make sure those numbers are correct. Hence why I want to know the actual square footage of your house before we come up with a number, because I don't want you pricing it too low. I don't want you pricing it too high. I also don't want to skew the numbers for the next person, because it's not going to help anybody if the numbers and the calculations can't be correct. So something to really, really consider, whether it's new construction or not, is making sure that all of your square footage numbers are as close as possible to what should be the most accurate thing. And in the event of this, my client, who on my last video I was talking about, we were dealing with this, I went back into their original listing. Their original listing doesn't even have the proper square foot for their house. When we redid their square footage based off of the actual measurements of the house, it's not even what the builder put on there. So we have my number, we have the builder's number, and we have the county's number. There's 3 different numbers. So at the end of the day, their utilizing that was completely invalid, because they paid for 1 square footage. So their price per square footage looked much higher than it actually was, because technically their house was much larger than what the square footage showed from the builder. And they ended up, and it didn't really affect them loan wise, but their numbers on the MLS are completely miscued. And so when I went back to look at it to see what kind of equity they had built into the house, because that's a big way to look at it too, is what did you originally pay price per square foot? What did you trying to sell it for price per square foot? That'll help you figure out, an easy way to look at how much equity they've got in the house. It was skewed. It wasn't right. I had to reconfigure everything, which is okay. I don't mind doing it. I'm glad I caught it. But that is why it's so, so, so important. It can completely screw up the market, and one whole neighborhood could just be completely jacked up simply because of a square footage issue. And it shouldn't be that difficult. It really shouldn't, but it is a lot of the times, because people do not do their due diligence. They do not take the time to make things right like they should. So we're here to fix that, because we don't want miscued numbers and miscalculations. My name is Morgan Rountree with Morgan Rountree Realty. I help people every day buy and sell homes, and these are the details that you need to be paying attention to, and your agent needs to be bringing to your attention and making sure that all this information is correct, because we don't want to leave money on the table, but we also don't want you to sit on the market forever. So make sure that you have someone who is paying attention to these teeny tiny little details that end up being big details in the end. And hopefully we can get these builders to start, getting their act together and actually putting the proper square footage when the house is completed. If you have any questions, my information is linked, phone number, email address, web address, however you want to reach me, call, text. I'm here to help answer any questions and help you through this process. I hope to hear from you soon.